Okay, we are on question number 3 in mark number 2, and these questions have got to do with generally bonds and yield to maturity on bonds. The first question, okay, is describe briefly what is the yield to maturity of a long-dated bond. What information does the yield to maturity convey? Okay, and we know that the yield to maturity, okay, is the rate of return anticipated on a bond if held until maturity, to the maturity date. Okay, the YTM of a long-term bond is, per the above, the bond yield if held to maturity. Okay, the question, okay, is asking, okay, what information does the yield to maturity convey? And we just answered it, which is the return on the bond if the bond is held to maturity. Now, number 2, describe briefly what is plotted on the yield curve. Okay, describe what you would expect the shape of this curve to be in unstressed market conditions and why. Okay, the yield curve, okay, which is generally sloping upward, okay, conveys the relationship, okay, between time, generally a number of years, okay, and the interest rate. And the normal yield curve normally indicates that short-term bonds which mature quickly, let's say in the first 5 years, okay, generally, okay, have a lower interest rate, okay, and provide a lower, okay, yield to maturity than longer-term bonds, let's say 20 or 30 years, okay, that would have a higher interest rate, okay, and this would occur because the longer the bond gets, okay, the higher risk is associated with it of default, and therefore to issue those bonds, one has to provide a higher interest rate. The third question indicates that the yield curve was inverted for most of 2008 prior to the Lehman collapse, and can you suggest possible reasons for this? Okay, so we're going to turn the book over, and here is a picture of an inverted yield curve, okay, where the interest rates on the longer-term bonds out here in time are lower than the interest rates on the short-term bonds depicted by where my pen is there. Okay, generally, an inverted yield curve is an indication of a pending economic recession. Okay, when short-term rates, as in the case here of this yield curve, okay, see long-term rates, the long-term outlook is poor. Okay, and describe, well, it could be, actually we're down here. It shows nervous of a downturn, okay, and it might be that inflation got higher than the target inflation, okay, and is likely to fall, resulting in a decrease, okay, in the interest rates over time.
So nervous of a downturn would just be looming recession, or people think
think that they're going to be collapsed, right? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now the next question: the yield curve is normally usually very flat at the long end. Okay, so at the long end, here's the yield curve here. So maybe we had this a little too up a sloping. Maybe it goes something like yay. Okay. And again, it can explain why the yield curve will be stable at the long end. And here we're just going to read the answer that over the long run, expectations are generally that interest rates will tend back to the historical average, okay, as we get out to long bonds. And as the long rate is the average of these long-term expectations, as well as changes, the market will therefore be less volatile, okay, as the interest rates begin to approach normality, which is what this is all about. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
All right. So